Hi, hello.
Hello, welcome to the Loopback.
What does it mean to have a human in the loop?
Human in the loop.
Human in the loop.
What in the world is a human in the loop?
Being a human in the loop.
AI in the loop. Humans in charge.
Welcome to Human in the Loop. I feel like I don't want to jump straight back into loopback stuff. Sometimes we talk about interesting stuff. I'm trying to think if I've seen anything pop up recently. Oh, I have. I have seen something pop up recently.
Toast? It's so much easier to be on point with jokes when you can just edit the timing later.
Do you ever listen back to the loopback and go like, gosh, I sound like so concise and clear with no ums and ahs?
I didn't. Oh, I didn't realize that. Gosh, we're already getting into the weird discursiveness. There's sort of two ways that AI uses web interface at the moment, right? There's like there's browser use where it attempts to act like a human, and that's like, Claude Agent and things where you give it complete control over your computer. And it tries to do like visual analysis of the website to figure out like where all the buttons are and what the text is and everything. Or there's like MCP server tool use where you're providing a interface that is, air quotes, more appropriate for a computer, for an AI agent, right? Where you're stripping out all of the design and visual information and just providing the data information that the AI might need, right? So I saw on LinkedIn, I'm going to put them on blast, so I can't remember their name anyway, so it's convenient that I can't name them when I'm putting them on blast. They did like this is what Booking.com is going to look like in the future, and it was just like a list of numbers, right? It's like, because AI agents don't care about the photos or anything, they just care about the hotel and the price and the information.
Yeah, fair.
And I thought about it a while. I don't think that's true, right? Like, when we go to websites, we are not just using the textual data. There's all sorts of metadata and analysis we're doing. Like, quality is a really strong signal of trustworthiness of a site, right? Maybe it shouldn't be. There's no specific correlation between, there might be a correlation. There's no specific causation between high quality and a trustable, secure provider.
By high quality, do you mean visuals?
Well, yeah, just like one of the things they train you to look out for like phishing and fake websites is like spelling mistakes on the page, or like weird layout glitches or visual experience, because that is an indicator of lower quality, which probably means someone threw the website together quickly because it's not expected to hang around for a long time. So, when we move to tool use, AI misses out on that pretty important signal that we as humans use.
Yeah. It's funny you bring this up, because I think that there's a point where the visuals can go too far and trick people into thinking that something's incredible, and actually you start to build up trust just because something looks great, and then you're completely let down.
Yeah.
Whether that's through the product you end up getting or the service that you go through. Like, it's getting easier and easier to spend less time creating a relatively good looking product, digital product.
Yeah.
And because of that, I don't think great visual design can correlate to a well thought out high quality experience anymore, though it definitely used to be able to, because it was time and money.
Yeah,
time and money spent on the site.
You're definitely seeing a reaction already of AI content, where if you are a human creating content that looks a bit AI, it will turn people off, right? Because they still want to use quality as a mark of authenticity, but it's much harder to pull out because AI is actually pretty, can produce some pretty high quality results, certainly compared to previous to AI. If you weren't putting any effort in the quality of results you'd get, right? So now people are looking for like the signals that indicate that this is AI, so that they can still distinguish the high effort and therefore high authenticity sources from the, lower effort. I see on YouTube and TikTok some of the youngs like holding microphones, and not microphones designed to be held, but like little lavalier microphones that are supposed to be clipped somewhere invisible, and they're like deliberately visually holding them, and that's like a what do you call it, like a video language that indicates like authenticity to that generational or cultural group. And so there is language that's sort of being developed to indicate authenticity, in that case a visual language, but that will probably, I mean, AI will always chase it, but I suspect it will always be chasing it.
Content language as a way of communicating. What do you got? Visual, audio, whatever. Communication as a device is constantly changing and tends to be the trends will change with the kind of age bracket of the time that usually tends to be the generation that's in their late teens and early 20s. That kind of those who decide what air quotes cool is. And so when I think about, you make the comment about the little microphones, that aligns as well with a generation of youngs, as you call them, who have been raised as content creators and don't see the need to hide the kind of behind the scenes of how they do stuff. Actually, they're so desperate to share authenticity that exposing the warts and all is quite right. And I've noticed another trend on social reels in particular, this kind of cutting or chopping off, like before a reel even finishes, there's this kind of really choppy, unclean editing style.
Yeah.
That those of us that were like, the Gen Xers and millennials that were raised in kind of like the height of really tight, slick content that was generally, only afforded to people who had studied in the really complicated tools, that is now kind of like not the cool thing. And if everybody can edit, there's this flipping of the message is more important, or the reaction that you get is more important than the way in which you're delivering it. So I don't think AI can keep up with the speed of trend, because as soon as you hand over, let's say, a video, raw video to an AI and say, cut out all my filler words and remove the doubled up content and spit me out a whatever, the trend will have moved on. And maybe filler words are funny now. And if you haven't left giant gaps, that becomes another marker, like, the M dashes in written content.
Yeah, 100%. AI, when they train AI, it's looking for average. It's looking for like the most common output. And so you're naturally going to end up with an issue where when you've got a fast-moving culture front, it's difficult for the AI to incorporate that because it's not the average yet, it's the new, right? It's the same reason olds don't catch on to content fronts until they're, well past relevancy. I wouldn't be surprised if, as a reaction, there are anti-AI groups around, and as a reaction to AI content, you see people deliberately developing, or not even necessarily deliberately, but through incentive, developing language and style that is not the AI current style, simply to act as an indicator of non-AI content. The other thing it made me think of is, like, these days, if you go and buy like a t-shirt or something, you'll often find like deliberately slubby fabric where they've left like lots of little pills and bits in the fabric, right? And it always used to be that was a marker of really crappy fabric, right? It was really hard to get nice pure cotton because it was all hand combed, and you'd end up with lots of seeds and stuff in the cotton. So rough, slubby cotton was sort of the cheap everyday cotton, and really fine cotton was very expensive and only for upper class people. But as machinery came in, and as we got new techniques to process cotton, it's now the fine, accurate, consistent cotton, which is the cotton you get in like the $5 t-shirt, and you pay like a premium for the slubby cotton because it's actually harder for the machines to deal with that sort of cotton. So you've got like an inversion of the signals.
Yeah, that's such a good analogy, actually. And it reminds me of the era when ripped jeans became a thing.
Yeah.
And you've got your boomer dads going, I can't believe you paid hundreds of dollars for jeans with holes in them.
Yeah.
It's like a dreadful impression. And not of my father, actually. There will always be a type of humanity, and it tends to be those who are trend building who buck against the norm, and that's just the pattern of humans. We're not, dare I say it, we're not as unique as we think we are. We're cyclical beings, and this is how humans maintain an order.
Well, it's also an economic signaling in that case, right? In fact, in a lot of these, so both in the T-shirt and the jeans case, what the thing that is in trend is more expensive to produce given the capabilities of the time. Used to be that extremely consistent, accurate, nice jeans were expensive. You know, you'd buy a pair and it would only look that new state and for a couple of weeks, and they'd cost you a couple of $100 minimum. And so the economic signaling of high spend was a new looking pair of jeans. But as you were able to get new looking pairs of jeans for $10, that stopped becoming the economic signal. Like it was no longer an indicator of excess spending to have nice looking jeans. And so then it became a signal of like, I've paid someone to go and deliberately, like there's an extra step in my jeans. It's more expensive to get my jeans because of that extra step to produce. And you'll probably see a similar thing with AI content, right? Like AI content significantly reduces the cost to produce certain sorts of thing. Now, in a part, you can still do it in terms of like, a human is attached to this art, and then you have to tell the story, right? You can't just say like, look at this pretty picture. You have to be like, look at this pretty picture that was drawn by this person and they didn't use AI art.
To yes, and exactly that.
Yeah.
You're so right. It's signaling, but even not always money. It's value, and sometimes the value isn't intangible. You know, when people make signals with their clothing, it's also to do with, you know, like, here's how I want to be perceived. Do I want to fit in, or am I someone who wants to stand out? Do I want to be seen as professional or trendy or nonchalant, or like whatever that value is? And it's interesting when you think about the human species. We need to fit in enough to stay looked after by the group, but we want to stand out just enough so that we are deemed of higher value order, you know, the peacock feathers of it all. In the AI world, and especially like if I'm thinking a lot about marketing content, what are the value signals for a brand that need to look, you know, what makes us the peacock, what makes us stand out, have a unique selling point, what makes us different to other brands. And then the internal part is the economics, like where am I saving money, saving time, and no one really cares, but we don't want to add to the AI slop. To bring it back to the very first point you made a point about maybe we'll have a time when websites are just lists of numbers so that agents can read other pages. That's still entirely true as a possibility. Like maybe there will be versions of every website, a version for a human and a version for an agent. That seems practical and sensible. And it reminds me of what you and Danu were saying last week to Bindi about how there's white text on pages to be read specifically by machines. So,
and I guess the question that nobody knows the answer to is, what does AI use as the replacement signal because we still need a signal of authenticity and trustableness, and even humans. Trustworthiness.
We're just fucking making up words over here.
Yeah,
but that's
actually. I think it was an electric.
You are so authentic.
I think it was an electric company. You know, the electric company. You know, the rip-off Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that was on the electric company.
Maybe
it
it's
was like,
a classist thing.
How
like,
do new words
are you
get
trustworthy or are you trustable?
Trustable. They had a thing on like how do words get in the English language. And it was like, well, a dictionary can sort of research them, or a bunch of other things. And then the last one was someone just makes something up, because that's how most English works, is people just make up new words and then they just become a thing. And complaining about it is pointless. You might as well try and halt the tide.
Once Shakespeare was dead, somebody had to come up with words.
Yeah. A very cromulent of you.
Is that a real word?
It's from The Simpsons. It wasn't, and then The Simpsons made it up as like a fake word, and now it's become a real word.
Amazing.
But yeah, what are we going to use as that signal, right? Like, we can't trust corporations to rate their own trustworthiness.
Awesomely, right after we interviewed Bindi on the podcast about health and AI and all manner of things, Danu and I then that same week attended the Digital Health Association Tech Users Association of New Zealand Tech Users Summit in Auckland. And so it was a really nice way to continue the healthcare conversation. And I just thought that I would raise 5 takeaways from that event for your benefit because you weren't there.
Fish and chips, KFC. Takeaway.
Sometimes I don't know where you're going, but then it always delivers. There was a lot of conversation about New Zealand's productivity crisis. The lovely Frances Valentine actually opened the summit, and we've spoken to her on this podcast too and have heard that. It was also backed up by John Roche, Dr. John Roche, I think, who is the PM's science advisor. And he's Irish, and they pulled themselves out of a horrific financial hole, probably in part through big tech, but
Yeah. and like being a tax haven for
basically, yeah.
big tech
It's
to siphon money out of the EU.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, he did point out that for same-sized countries of similar-sized populations, Ireland's, Norway's, some Nordic countries, Singapore maybe, New Zealand is not performing where we should. Going on to say we are not actually as wealthy a country as we think we are. Like New Zealand being trapped in a planning, overdoing paralysis, which is part of that productivity issue. Healthcare, unfortunately, at the moment, kind of exemplifies a digital deployment dysfunction. And this was probably directed a little bit more at the public health system, not the likes of Procare, Bindi, and private organisations who have, the capital and the autonomy to be more innovative. But then this kind of awareness that trust is one of New Zealand's competitive advantages. Bringing it back to what you're saying earlier about trust and what the signals are for humanity and in humans, New Zealand is seen as a trustworthy place to do business, to bring up a family, to keep your money. We have a relatively low corruption scale in both government and public sector. So
I think we're like second or third at the moment to Norway or Finland, or one of the Scandinavians.
Okay, I'm gonna do four loop backs. This one is quite fun. So Danu alluded to the 1 p.m. daily update entry on IMDb, and it is actually quite good. It says it actually says an big star-studded New Zealand show that inform, have fun and get people news, hosted by most of the wonderful people in the government, including the President Jacinda Ardern and the Director General of Health Dr. Ashley Bloomfield. The stars are listed as Ashley Bloomfield, Jacinda Ardern and the team of 5 million. And there are really great reviews like, has me on the edge of my seat. Sometimes you think you know where the series is going and then boom, a whole new alert level. I made I won't say wildly unsubstantiated claim that Oura Ring was selling data, but I had seen a headline and I did say I would go back to it. So early September, 5th of September, Oura Ring sparks major privacy concerns. There was a lot of backlash online, most notably on Reddit, because Oura Ring announced it would expand its operations in the US and team up with Palantir. And Palantir are controversial. Palantir and its concerning data analytics and its connection with military activity has a lot of people nervous. And so it's absolutely fair that when you know that company is getting into bed with another, that people would be concerned. I did see that their CEO came out, the Aura CEO was like, we're never going to sell your data, we're never this. You can't say never these days. You just can't. Ownership of data, access to data. It doesn't even have to be ownership. Access to data, cyber attacks, cyber security, all of that is up for grabs when things go south. So
yeah, I mean, even if the corporation has a really rigid privacy policy where they only use the data that they're collecting for the explicit purpose that you approve and request, and they have extremely strong controls over loss of that data in terms of a sale or a change in control or anything like that, there is still the ability of the governments that have legal influence over those companies to force access to that data in a way that is secret to the population as a whole, right? Like Pfizer letters from America are a thing. They are a thing where they can go to any company that has any sort of legal attachment to the US, or even not really, because they, pretty extraterritorial, and say, give us this data. You may not tell anyone that you are doing this. And you may not even tell anybody you've received this letter. And these are they've occasionally leaked or they've gotten permission to release them later. These were for a while relatively common. So yeah, if your data is being collected, you cannot prevent governments, regardless of the quality or effort or intent of the corporations collecting the data. They can't prevent a legal request from a government to access that data unless they physically don't have access, right? So that's one of the arguments for end-to-end encryption is it doesn't matter what the intent of the organization is. Ultimately, they can be forced to give access.
Yeah.
And so the only way to prevent that from happening is for the organization not to physically not be able to access that data at all.
When it comes to Oura Ring and data, I'm not saying anything in any particular way. I don't have one. I have no horse in the game, but do your own research and, maybe just follow Hamish's advice, which is I don't need to be told I'm sleeping badly. Just
you already know, you listener, person listening to me right now, you already know the things that you need to improve most in your life. You just need to do it.
Yeah. It also might be fair to suggest that the more you outsource your physical signals to a platform, the less in tune your brain will want to be to its own natural signals. So maybe spend some time in a park and just think about your heart rate. Yeah. There are some slivers of use cases. I remember, Z Energy being a client of ours. They have fuel truckers driving the length of the country. Their drivers, to my remembrance of the last time someone told me about it, wear an Oura Ring so that they can get helpful data about whether or not you got enough sleep to drive a giant fuel truck across New Zealand for X amount of hours. That's a really good use case. Okay. Yes, scientists trained pigeons to spot cancer in images of biopsied tissue. Apparently the avian analysts were trained visually. This was back in 2015.
Not that long ago.
Bro, it's 10 years ago.
Yeah, but still, computers were, generative LLMs, they're pretty new. But computer vision has been around for at least 10 years.
Yeah, but if pigeons were that great at it, there are so many pigeons, you would think in 10 years, if it was a really valid exercise, it would have, why don't we all have cancer spotting pigeons? Anyway, they can spot cancer if they're trained visually. It doesn't seem like it became the great cancer spotters of,
Maybe they are. Maybe they're every time all those pigeons are harassing you, they're actually trying to let you know that you've got cancer.
What?
Well, whenever you go outside and you've got a thing of bread or whatever and all the pigeons are hanging out, maybe they're well, we'll take the bread because, sure, but bro, you should go get checked.
Well, okay, so that's why dogs are better cancer spotters because they can smell it.
Yeah.
A pigeon has to be shown images of biopsied tissue,
Yeah.
unless you've got just a flap in the side of your body and you can open it up and be like, bro, check me out. So yeah, it's why would you replace a computer? If you've got to take photos of biopsies, run them through an AI. You don't need to spend time training a pigeon to do so.
No.
And the last one was just wrapping up the story about Burger King and other drive-thrus taking on AI assistants at their drive-thru. In New Zealand in particular, it was in June when stuff was reporting on Burger King, and this did make me giggle. At some Burger Kings across Aotearoa, drive-thru customers are being greeted not by a human, but by an AI assistant named Patty. It was created by American tech firm Hi Auto. The system was rolled out across hundreds of restaurants in the US and the UK and started to make its way in New Zealand a couple of months ago. I couldn't find specific, and by say I couldn't find, I spent less than 30 seconds trying to find the most recent news story. I can't find anything specifically that says that they stopped using it, but my environmental listening tells me that, I encountered it once about a month ago. I haven't encountered it again since.
I've definitely seen, it might not be New Zealand, in fact, it probably wasn't New Zealand specific. I've definitely seen a news story somewhere that a fast food organization was rolling back their use of AI due to the teething problems they had had.
Yeah, it does say at the end of this one, it says, whilst it might feel strange to speak to a synthetic voice, the process is straightforward and quick. It's experimentation. It was just a trial at only a couple of places in Auckland. So maybe the trial was a limited time and they're going to work on it. I'm so positive it'll be the way of the future. But, as a person who likes their websites good looking and their videos clipped succinctly, I also prefer a human on the end of my drive-through order. Maybe they should bring back where the cars all park and either a robot or a human or an app will just go side by side, like the old-fashioned
it is
drive-thru.
kind of weird that a drive-through is still a thing, right? Well, you should just be able to drive out. Especially since my most recent, I don't go to the drive-through very often, but my most recent experience is they made me go and park somewhere and then they brought it out to the car anyway because it wasn't ready at the time.
Yeah.
You got up to the collection
Yeah,
window.
that happens a lot.
And so why not just do more like a click and collect?
But yeah. Anyway, speaking of the loop,
This has been
that was the loop back.
The Loop Back. Thank you for listening. Come back next week. Go away now.